Welcome to Black Bear, Pennsylvania. The carved wooden sign is new, dark forest green with gold leaf lettering. The best the firehouse cake sale could buy, no doubt. Little else seems changed as I drive down Main Street. I've been gone half my lifetime, and this tiny, insular mountain village appears just as threadbare as ever. 17 years ago, I fled Black Bear, returning to Paris for university, vowing I'd never come back. If it hadn't been for that anonymous phone call, I never would have set foot in this town again. Does death nullify vows? In the center of the village, at the crossroads where it all started over 150 years ago, are the venerable steepled Moravian church and the modern single-story Catholic church across the street. For Monday afternoon, the Chug-a-Lug beer distributor is busy, with 2 mud-splattered pickup trucks and an old beat-up Mustang in the lot. As usual, Cliff's True Values inventory spills out onto its cracked asphalt parking lot, trying to convince lake tourists and returning snowbirds to stop and buy as they zoom past, routinely breaking the 25 miles per hour speed limit. Why Cliff doesn't close on a Monday was always a mystery to Grandpa. No one does yard work or barbecues or puttering on Monday, he would say, not when they have the weekend to rest up from and the workaday week ahead of them. And there, next to Englehart's sprawling Ford dealership, the vile old school is still a blot on the landscape, boarded up and falling down. How typical. But no, not everything is the same. Some things and people are irretrievably lost. Next to Englehart's Auto Supply and across from the old school is Grandpa's drugstore, now a second-hand clothing shop. I wonder, what have they done with Gramps' soda fountain and snack counter? Are neatly folded recycled baby jumpers piled on the chrome and red leatherette stools where I used to love to twirl? Black Bear must have been one of the last places on earth where the local pharmacist would greet you by name and know how you liked your milkshake as well as what medicines you took, when, and why. The Rite Aid in Hamlin put an end to that about 15 years ago, forcing Gramps out of business. But he had written me that he'd been thinking of retiring anyway. Or had he already known that he was dying and would be gone in a couple of years? I pull into Dutch's service station to top up the fuel tank. Ever since I first learned to drive, Gramps drilled into me that I should never, ever let the gas get below half a tank, just in case. Not that I was an overly obedient teenager. I would often drive until the car was almost empty. But I learned my lesson that horrid night after the homecoming game in my senior year when I ran out of gas on Drumheller Lane. Fleeing for my life from that dark dirt road was a suitably wretched finish to the miserable day that changed everything. Now, back in Black Bear, where I vowed I'd never return, I'm determined to keep every precaution necessary to make it through this 1 week, including filling up my rental car at Dutch's before leaving town for the farm. Just as I flip open the door to the car's gas cap, a big white man in his mid-30s yells from the service bay, "Hey, I'll do that for you, miss," and limps toward me as quickly as his bad right leg lets him. I remember how Old Man Dutch used to rant at the alleged convenience store gas stations that had sprouted along the interstate. "Where the hell's the service and self-serve?" he'd ask. This enormous man, with his unkempt, thinning, dark blonde hair and that beer belly protruding over his low jeans, isn't Dutch. Still, he must agree with Dutch because after he starts pumping the gas, he actually squeegees the car's windshield and rear window, all the while staring at me. Well, I knew that would be part of coming back. They never did get used to my dark skin, flat nose, kinky hair around here in Wonder White Bread territory. "You're like a 1-2 punch for some folks," Grandma once tried to explain. "You're schmoyer through and through, down to the family hazel eyes and high cheekbones. but in a very different package from anything they've ever known. You confuse them. Confuse isn't the word I would use to describe how Black Bear reacts to anyone who's different. From a young age, I learned to try to ignore the rude stares and cruel jibes. So why does the way this man's icy blue eyes bore into me make my skin crawl? Something about how his lopsided grin seems to consume his entire face. It's all too disturbing, too familiar. Even as he replaces the puff nozzle, caps the tank, and wipes a spot where the gas splashed on the side panel, he doesn't take his eyes off me. "Joe?" he finally asks, then catches himself before saying anything else. Now those pale, searing eyes that he couldn't keep off me just a moment ago are diverted everywhere but on my face. Mostly he focused on the oil-splattered, cracked concrete around his feet. Oh no, it can't be. Not this massive wreck of a man. His puffy face has that grizzled look of someone who's lived and worked hard. Wrinkles punctuate his eyes and mouth like parentheses cut into his flesh. His nose has obviously been broken, perhaps more than once. And he's hunched over, soft. Nothing like the wide-eyed, fair-haired, muscular football hero of our high school days. Once upon a time, nothing could have convinced me that a day would come when I wouldn't instantly recognize Joe Anderson, regardless of how long we'd been apart. Yet it takes hearing his hesitant, hoarse voice saying that damned nickname he gave me before I can be sure he really is Joe Anderson.